until what we share can make an entrance to morning. How long till what you feel can make an exit to safety? Don't delay, I'm drowning back. Clouds under my feet, slave to gravity. Don't delay, decide today, 'cause you cannot keep changing your mind. I need you to rescue me. Rescue our dream. When will my actions heal the pain you used to reject me? When will your methods yield and your heart fully accept me? I'm crying, don't delay, I'm drowning, babe. Clouds under my feet, slave to gravity. Don't delay, decide today, 'cause you cannot keep changing your mind. I need you to rescue me. Rescue me. Rescue our dream. Rescue me. Rescue me. Rescue our dream.
Empowering, inspiring, infectious. You are listening to the Hoard Music Experience right here on B-Side Live, and I am your host, Queen GodIs. So happy to introduce you to Hoard. Give it up one more game. I want to begin the show by saying you really are a beautiful human being.
Thank you.
You gave me that like weird, creepy Brooklyn look when somebody gives a Brooklynite a compliment. You've only been in Brooklyn for a few years. You don't get to give me that look. I mean it so sincerely. First of all, I've had the privilege of seeing you perform a few times. The first time I had no idea who you were, a small hole-in-the-wall spot called Arlene's Grocery, where there happens to be this open mic jam session called The Lesson. And it's still there, I imagine, and you were on stage and like you opened up your mouth and I just felt like God flew out. And what strikes me the most is that when you sing, you smile. All the, like some people, like, first of all, you got singers and then, you know, people say you got sangers. Clearly you're a singer with the A.
Right.
And sometimes they get, you know, they get that stank face because it's just so good that it just looks ugly, you know, but it's that beautiful ugly. But you smile when you sing, and the smile is just as infectious as the voice. I want to know, have you had that smile your whole life?
Oddly, yeah. It's been a weird one. I've always been outwardly extremely happy, and usually internally extremely happy as well. But yeah, I've always been
So 3-year-old Jay Hoard.
loud, singing
And
all
smiling.
the notes, and smiling, dancing, hecka hyper, like super hyper.
And when did you discover the voice that you had in you, and how did that change the smile?
I would say there's a recording from like 4 or 5, because you know I grew up in church and all that, so they, you know, they tend to throw us up on stages and sing solos often, you know, especially when it's a long service. And so I think the first video was when I was 4 or 5, and it was His Eyes on the Sparrow. And I remember when I would watch back as a child and seeing the reaction, and I'm like, okay.
So is that where the smile comes from? Is it a reaction to how? Is it an effect of the reaction that people are having to your voice, or is it because of the feeling that you feel when you're singing? What is it?
Both.
Both.
Like most naturally, I think it came from the feeling that I have when I'm singing. And then definitely how the crowd responds. And then to be also extremely honest, Victor Wooten wrote a book called The Music Lesson. And in it, like, I think it's like within the 2nd chapter, the person, whatever, spirit guide, we don't really know what the character is, but he says, just always smile, always smile. And Victor speaks of how, like, even when he would sound awful, or not he, but if anybody sounds awful, you smile. The crowd doesn't remember it because, like, you're happy to be there, and it literally changes the atmosphere. So ever since then, that was around 2012, it's been
Ingrained.
a concert, very like, I'm going to try to smile, and it's not always
And that's
like
a little
that.
different from the kind of smile that people slap on top of grief or hurt or pain or jealousy or anger, right? You can tell the difference when you see it. So speaking of smiling as a scientifically proven action to change some body chemistry, a smile can rescue someone from the doldrums or from just anything happening in the world. And this song happens to be called Rescue Me. Tell us really briefly, who are you talking to and what are you talking about?
Talking to all the lovers out there that I've had that just don't want to continue loving, and it's more so just a reflection on that unrequited love, or if not unrequited necessarily, then just silent love. You know, like the 2nd verse, real quickly, is my favorite. When will my actions heal the pain that you used to neglect me? You know, so
Say
I'm
it
giving
again.
you, when will my actions heal the pain you used to neglect me? You know, like we in relationships, family relationships, intimate relationships, work relationships, oftentimes you'll find yourself, if you're a giver, you'll find yourself giving. And it's like, I'm literally giving, trying to heal you, and you're still allowing yourself to be broken. And like, I don't have time for this. So the last time is, don't delay, decide today, you cannot waste my time. You cannot keep wasting it. You've already been wasting it, but I guess the B section You can't do it. I'm not going to allow you to waste my time.
Well, it sounds
anymore.
like you're the rescuer in that situation, because when you stop enabling something, or when you put your foot down and say, I'm reclaiming my time, you save people from their effery. Can't say the word.
I'm with you.
We are going to go into the next two songs back to back, but as you can see, if you tuned in, we have decided to just dive right into this conversation where there's so many juicy layers. We are here with J. Hoard Music and crew. We're going to come back after the next two songs and introduce them.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to one of the B-side guests in the front row who has an exam tomorrow, and I think you just rescued her for that test tomorrow. Shout out to your professor. She gets extra credit. Give it up one more time for J. Hoard Music.
Like an eagle on a mountain, I watch and wait for you. Like a daisy in the meadow, I'll store the rain for you. One call, I'm coming, 2 steps in running, 3 words I'm humming to prove my love for you. 1 call I'm taking, 2 hands praying, 3 words I'm saying to prove my heart is true. My heart is true. Like a snowflake on a child's nose, I will paint this world with you. Like a sunset on the coastline, I will disappear with you. 1 call, and I'm coming, 2 steps in running, 3 words I'm humming to prove my love for you. 1 call, and I'm taking, 2 hands in praying, 3 words I'm saying to prove my heart is true. I'm in love with you, and I could stay here forever. I'm in love with you, no doubt. I hope you will trust me forever. shelter. Oh, I'm your strength. Just loving me and holding me. I'll love you. I'll protect you, yeah. I'll make sure you smile. I'll support you, yeah. Just love me forever. Run around, the chaos in your mind. Take the time to find just what you want. Take a leap into the open sky. Arms spread wide to fly just for a while. I know you lose faith in us, and you think it is best to run. I know you lose faith in us, and you think that it's best to run. But you won't run too far, 'cause so far my heart is where you are. And you can't run too fast, not so fast. But you won't go too far, 'cause so far my touch is still just scars. And you can't run too fast, not so fast. Not so fast. Run around the painful memories. Just break free to find just what you need. Take a leap into the deepest sea. Swim freely to wash your conscience clean. I know you lose faith in us, and you think it is best to run. I know you lose faith in us, and you think it is best to run. But you won't go too far, 'cause so far my heart is where you are. And you can't run too fast, not so fast. And you won't go too far, 'cause so far my touch is still just stars. And you can't run too fast, not so fast. Slow, longer smiles, 1,000 nights, 1,000,000 tales. What do we rush? Why does the whole wide world go so fast? When you won't go too far, 'cause so far my heart is where you are. And you can't run too fast, not so fast. And you won't go too far, 'cause so far my touch is still just scars. And you can't run too fast, not so fast. You got it, not so fast, not so fast. Not so fast. no, not so fast. No, no, not so fast. It's a sing-along.
No, no, not so fast. No, 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 not so fast.
In harmony.
No, 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 not so fast. No, 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 not so fast.
No instruments.
No, 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 not so fast.
Last time.
No, 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 not so fast.
Yeah, guys.
If you are just tuning in, or if you got so carried away with the music that you forgot where you were, we are here on B-Side with J. Hoard, aka J. Hoard Music, vocalist, singer, songwriter, choir director, clearly, background vocalist at times, vocal arranger, educator, and I'm gonna give you a new title. You ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
Barefoot Balladeer.
So into it.
I'm only gonna take a small percentage if it pops up, pops
Yeah,
up.
I'm with you.
Right.
I'm with you.
Wow. And you gave us like that church clap. So we have some really cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the
All
slant,
day.
and then it's the, yeah.
You know?
And then when you start doing it like the
Like
offbeat,
the double,
the
yeah,
double
yeah,
time.
you know? He knew where to go. He
Oh,
knew where
okay,
to go.
so now, first of all, we just performed 2 songs back to back. I included myself in the band. I said we, so I'm officially a member. Countdown and Not So Fast, really beautiful. And we had a little surprising moment for me. It made me actually LOL. I laughed out loud in a good way during Countdown when you all started to do the background vocals. It was so unassuming. I did not expect it. And I just wanted to jump up and pinch everybody's cheeks in the back row. So I owe you a cheek pinching in the best way. I did not expect those vocals to come out. So I think that this is a great segue to introduce the band. Let's
Perfect.
give them a round of applause, by the way.
The boys. So I'll start here. We have the King, Jed Lingat, on bass.
Hey, Jed.
And we have King number 2 hailing from Little Rock, Arkansas, Mr. Tyler Newsom.
Hey, Tyler.
And this here with the Technicolor guitar is a good friend, longtime music collaborator. He was a part of the Greenhouse People from college years, and this is AJ Jagannath.
Band full of kings. I'm so happy to be the queen interviewing you tonight.
Yes.
Born and raised in Ohio, you are one of 8 children to a family that also has 24 or over 20, I know for sure, grandchildren.
Definitely.
Roots in gospel, then obviously transition into all these other things that we're hearing. Well, definitely full of soul. The son of a pastor daddy, preacher kid, who used to be a member of the Ohio Players, the second round, I guess the graduation round.
Nailed it.
Ronnie Diamond Hoard. Yeah. So clearly, as we're talking about family, such a huge family, we're talking about pastor daddy, we're talking about gospel music, we're talking about transition through different types of music with church as the roots. Let's talk about love and sex. Because even if I ain't talk about it in that house, clearly there's a lot of love and there's a lot of sex happening in that household.
A lot.
And I'm really curious, as we're hearing these songs that have a very strong love message or appeal, relationship content, what is your relationship to love and sex as an artist, and finding the balance between discussing both of these things in your work, also considering the background that you come from?
Good question. I would say it took me forever to sing about it explicitly. And places like The Lesson definitely helped that a great deal.
How so?
Like there's one of my favorite hooks that I made of is, I need a man to love it all out of me. I need a guy. out of me. Okay, and it was like, but like the girls there, and I sang. That was the first time. It's like 2016.
Wait, so tell me. Let me make sure that I didn't miss anything. So at the lesson, which is this open mic that happens on Thursdays once a month. Once a month.
Oh, well, it was every week. My bad.
Oh, it's every week.
Forgot.
Okay, cool. So try to find that out so you can go visit. Someone was singing this song and you were doing
That was me.
That was you.
So I created a hook because it was like a week of, and this is when Nadia Washington was with us. Nadia Washington.
Google.
My
Google,
God.
Google.
Okay. So Nadia Washington was with us, and she and I were talking earlier that week about how, like, as artists, especially artists like us and other people that are in this circle, we are so not so fasty and are so, you know, your life can be better. Let us sing it to you about it.
Okay.
And so people forget that we're also
Human.
okay? And so we were talking about how, like, sometimes we just need a man or whatever we prefer there to just literally get all the rehearsals out of us, get all of the sessions out of us, get all of the emails that we have to do, all of the,
Are we speaking euphemistically?
like, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like to make
You need
it,
somebody to get all the
wear it
emails
out,
of you.
and
Okay.
let us forget about it, you know what I'm saying?
I've never heard this before, so we're learning. Okay.
And so we, I wrote that hook there, and that's what it
So
was
this
about.
that was the song
Yeah.
you're describing as your song.
Yeah,
What's that
it was
song
a hook.
called?
So that was just a hook with the lesson. It was just
It
a
was
hook
just a
that came up.
chorus.
Exactly.
Okay, so what people who are trying to figure this out, what happens at the lesson is that it is an open mic, but there is a house band, and the house band has a couple of MCs and a bunch of musicians that do a set every show, and there's an MC or a couple of MCs, and then you usually are one of the main vocalists that kind of come in. So did they know that this was going to be the hook?
Oh,
that
not at all.
Uh-huh.
But this is like during a time when I was starting to be actually far more explicit with like what I wanted
In life.
In life, because I had just come out to my father like 3 months prior to this particular hook.
And
This
when
is
you,
early
when
2016.
You say come out, you mean?
Like, hey, Dad, I like boys, and I'm not praying it out of me. It's
And
not
this was
happening.
just 3
So,
years ago.
You know?
This
Huh?
was just 3 years ago.
Just 3 years ago. And so, well.
So wait, what happened first? The coming out or
first.
the song?
Coming out first.
Coming out
first. And then that's when I was finally like, you know what? I can actually sing about this. I can sing about, hey, I like men, y'all. I don't have to fake it up. I don't have to do that anymore.
What was the transition period of time? You came out, and then like the next day, it was like, it's free.
It's kind of
and
like that, legit though.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I told my mom when I was 25. I was 27 at the time, so I was 25 when I told my mom, and like most of my sisters. You know, one sister didn't know because she's just still super
Are
holy.
you the only male child?
I'm one of four
One of
males.
four males.
So it's 4 girls, four boys.
Oh, okay.
And so I told the sisters first, and then I think that particular Thanksgiving I went ahead and told my brothers, and then 2015 was like, okay, Dad, it's your turn. And like once I told my father, I literally felt as though like there was this thing that was like, oh, I'm all good, you know? And that literal following years when everything happened with Chance, that's when I went back to Europe, and I've been going back with Stefan. We did that thing here. Like, I'm not saying that because I came out the closet, all this stuff happened, but like literally, I significantly, like there are significant, we're doing trying to say.
We got
there
you.
are things that happen
Yeah.
that were not happening.
Okay, so first of all, we will have private moment conversations with audiences. Like, what are y'all talking about? Like, as if we've had chat sessions our whole life. This is actually literally our only second conversation in life, official conversation. So I want to contextualize it. So basically, when we name drop Chance, as in Chance the rapper, it's so funny to watch you do this because you are not only smiley, like, but you're also like such. Everybody always talks about how humble you are, which is all good. You know what I mean?
I'm trying.
No, you don't have to try.
Okay,
You just, you know, it is. I think it's a good balance for this tremendous gift you have, and then this tremendous composure that you have. You were Grammy nominated for a song that the song won a Grammy for best performance.
You got it.
Yeah, we had this conversation last night. Okay, so first of all, this is J Hoard's second time on this show, right? We get a lot of musicians rotating because they play with a lot of different artists, so we'll see musicians multiple times. We may see you guys again.
Totally,
right.
totally.
But it's very rare that we'll see an artist repeat on this stage. And you first appeared with SK Invitational last year, and now you're here with your solo work. And we talked about it then, the Grammy nominate. Like, as soon as people hear the word Grammy, they think that you have this gold trophy in your house. And it's a lot more complicated than that. But anyway, to kind of circle back to the question, or to the conversation, you were talking about your family, and you referenced coming out 5 years ago to your mom, 3 years ago to your dad, and feeling a weight lift, and something shifted, and then you started to sing about it more and just be more expressive about this part of your life and your work. And so what I wanted to say was, this is energy. Like, outside of labels, outside of opinions, outside of people's perceptions and projections, the bottom line, I think, is just energy. When energy is blocked or stuck, or when we can't speak about something, or when we don't feel free, which is everybody's birthright to feel and be free, when we don't feel that, it kind of does, opportunities may get stuck in that void. Opportunities and the doors may not swing open. And so what it sounds like to me is that when you were able to get free in that way with your family, there was a flood of opportunities.
It was really
so yeah,
lit.
I do feel like it was a...
And then I wrote songs about sex, specifically.
Yeah.
And like on the new EP, Follow Me Now, it's recently out as of last Friday, track 4 through 7. And it's so liberating.
Track
like
4 through 7 are about
did a
sex,
show at
so make no
National
mistake,
Sawdust.
there's no other...
Seriously though, first track 1 through 3 is introspective and, you know, get your life together, inspiring, and then 4 through 7 is like, yeah, I'm an adult now, so.
So speaking to the adult, let's go hear some more adult music. So if you're at home, you may want to just, you know, do whatever you got to do to prepare yourself for some adult music. He got free and the floodgates open, and the next song is called Tidal Wave. Give it up for Jay Hoard. Ow.
You good. You good.
So this was a bit inspirational and stuff. Because life can be like a tidal wave and can try to take you out. When everything is soon to go up in flames, can you cool it down? Whenever I get too caught up in the crowd, can you pull me out? 'Cause I'm uncertain if the future will fade like the rain, but I'm determined I'll survive the fire in the tidal wave. Please don't let the wave bring you down. Learn to walk in water. Please don't let the wave bring you down. When every high leads to nothingness, will you turn around? 'Cause I'm uncertain if the future will fade like the rain, but I'm determined I'll survive the fire within the tidal wave. Please don't let the wave bring you down. Learn to walk on water. Please don't let the wave bring you down. Oh, please don't let the wave bring you down. Learn to dance on water. Please don't let the wave bring you down. To yourself. Learn to walk on water. 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 Life's gonna get hard, but it's gonna be rough, but certain people in office, still gotta walk, yo. 'Cause I'm uncertain if the future will fade like the rain, but I'm determined that I'll survive the fire. We have in the tidal Learn to walk on water. 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 Dante.
Let me tell you something. When you know how to walk on water, sometimes the mic don't work. So, you know, it's the give or take. There's so many fun quotes that you have. It was like 3 years ago, I was never this gay. That was one thing that you said. Then you said, still hella gay, still hella love Jesus. You know what I mean? So you kind of like emerging these worlds for people who think that they are separate. And this becomes a very contentious conversation for a lot of people. We are not having a moment to impose on anybody's faith or beliefs, but there is something very teachable about your being, which for me is very serendipitous that the first time I saw you was at an event called The Lesson. So we know that you have multiple EPs, a suite of EPs, a cornucopia of EPs that you've started to release and that you'll continue to put some out. We know that you're talking about love and sex and relationships, an expression of these things that you were not necessarily always talking about in full freedom before. And then you have a lot of messages in your music in response to the things happening in the world. 30 years from now, one of the 24 grandchildren that exist in your family, they're going to be old enough to dig through some dusty archives, or maybe not so dusty, and find your catalog of work. What do you want them to be able to go to school and say? My uncle taught me
to love myself, I think, the biggest one. That's what I want, especially for them. That's it.
How did you learn to love yourself?
Ah.
And I asked this not in like the super weighty way, like where we have to take in 3 hours to really talk, but I asked this in context of a world that really the message that I feel like so many people in the world are trying to send all of us, and especially someone who identifies themselves the way that you identify openly. What do you say, how do you learn to love yourself in a world that does not feel that you are entitled or worthy to love yourself and show expressions of that self-love in whatever way you choose, openly and freely in the public? How did you learn to do that?
Through my parents, a lot through my parents, especially now. Like they are still super Jesus, and we're Jews for Jesus, so we're even more weird, you know?
You're what?
Jews for Jesus.
Jews for Jesus.
So all my life I kept Pesach, Shavuot,
wow.
Yom Kippur all my life in Ohio. So that's that. But because of them being, you know, not because of them being, because of them, they're from their birth, they've been givers, both of them. And they always showed us to give literally beyond. So I learned how to give beyond to where it's like, you know, a fault. And so I corrected that, at least I'm trying to correct that particular lesson and teaching thing that I absorbed. But what I kept and will always keep is their unconditional love for people. Even though they are super what they are, they still love people.
So would you say that they were very strict and your household was very strict?
It was very strict, but it was so fun because it was like 8 of us, a lot of music, and although my parents and some of, you know, their siblings felt a certain way, they had other siblings who did not. So my Uncle Duna, what's up, Uncle Duna? Uncle Duna, racetracks, you know, ferry boats, you know, all the things.
Everybody got that
all
uncle,
the things,
yeah.
But my parents didn't do it, like, because, you know, a lot of people bet at racetracks. So, like, they were like, that's the sin.
Right.
It was like, let's go, you know? So I definitely had I think at least, I had a balance of people that were like, do you, and then also this, like, hedge of, we don't want you to do that, you know? And then outside of my parents, I learned to love, like, also through my family, and more so these days is like literally, like I was talking about in the interview with Wussy, this voice especially is a gift, you know? And so I know that you could have it, you have your own voice and it's amazing, and you can have this one. He has his own voice, you can have this one and it's amazing. You know, I wish I had Kim Burrell's voice. I don't have it because it's amazing, but you know, everyone has a voice. And I think that when people have a voice, especially a beautiful voice, they are supposed to give it because it literally could be given to anybody. Karen Clark Sheard's voice could have been given to anybody. Chaka Khan could have been given to anybody, but it was given to them. So to give, sorry.
Okay, so we want to go to the next song, but before we go to the next song, no, don't be sorry, there's no apologies here. We want to come back to the question again. I want to ask it again. How did you learn, what's your message to people in terms of learn to love yourself in a world where they may not have access to the privilege of unconditional love, especially in a household, they may not have a household. How do you learn to do that? And I'm not saying that you should have all the answers, but clearly you're discovering this, and we can hear it, and we can see it, and we can feel it, and we can taste it, and we can smell it, and we experience it in the studio tonight. Let's give it up one more time for Jay Hoard, showing us how you love yourself through your gift.
Thank you. That's the biggest one, though.
But let's go into the next song, which is perfect for this. We're going to come back and talk about it some more. And this one is called Hearts on Tour.
Thank you. Need a reminder. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
Can I be your Detroit lover? Call me when your band's in town. That's what she said. He responded, what's your number? In 5 weeks I'll be around. And then they danced. When morning came, their smiles remained. But noon brought on the pain. Bittersweet goodbye. Hearts on tour, roll me to the next city. Hearts on tour, looking for a new meaning. Hearts on tour, roll me to the next city. Hearts on tour, looking for a new meaning. They keep beating, beating. Our hearts keep beating, beating. Ooh, beating, beating. Our hearts keep beating, beating. Ooh. Let me be your Vegas lover. No worries if you're involved. That's what he said. A response no one could find out, because all would be lost. Then both men left. But when morning came, their smiles remained. But noon brought on the pain, oh, bittersweet goodbye. Oh, hearts on tour, roll me to the next city. Hearts on tour, looking for a new meaning. Hearts on tour, roll into the next city. Hearts on tour, looking for a new meaning. They keep beating, beating. Our hearts keep beating, beating. Ooh, beating, beating. Our hearts keep beating, beating. Ooh. Ooh. You may have someone at home, but this is here and this is now. We can't keep each other back home, so love right here and love right now. Hearts on tour, roll into the next city. Hearts on tour, looking for a new meaning. Yeah, hearts on tour, roll into the next city. Hearts on tour, looking for a new meaning. They keep beating, beating. Our hearts keep beating, beating. Ooh, beating, beating. Our hearts keep beating, beating. Ooh. Hey. I wrote this song because I was on tour and I saw a lot of people getting down when they shouldn't have been getting down. But check it out. If you have somebody at home waiting for your leave the socks on the drawer kind of self, forgetting their birthday or anniversary kind of self. If somebody left you back home, go home, not to their room. Go home, not the back seat of your car. Go home.
Before the show ends, we are going to talk about these toes. But before we get to the toes, let's go home.
Yeah.
Your father did an interview with someone who asked him, how do you go from being in the Ohio Players, singing what they were singing about, to being a pastor doing gospel? And he said, the funk never leaves. The words change, or the message changes. But I feel like, and at first I had a hallelujah moment with that, amen, okay. But I actually want to challenge that a little bit in your body. You, no matter how erotic or even what some people would consider vulgar the words get, there is a message of love that is consistent, I feel, not only in your words and your music, in the arrangement, in your body. So maybe the funk is what shifts, the kind of funk, but the message maybe doesn't really, even when you're talking about grinding and bumping, you know, whatever it is, like there's still an essence of love. So but that was his take on how he shifted and how he now creates his new music based on his faith. How do you create your music and balance your gospel roots with clearly this R&B, soul, eclectic, kind of cosmic, you know, with all of this like old soul stuff that you have? How do you balance all of these elements that still clearly have not left, that exist within you? You know, you throw in the church clap and just while you're, you know, singing a soul groove. How does this affect your strong stroke? Like, what's your process?
So, sorry. So the way that the religion, I guess, the way that the background of my religious upbringing goes into the music, definitely sometimes through the belting. My family, they love riffs. Everyone can riff. Everyone is a soprano, okay? Everyone can sing. Everybody sings down. So they love tone. We're a big tone family. So like all those kind of things come into play for at least the singing portion, especially the expression. We're a very expressive denomination of, you know, that faith. As far as the other styles and writing and everything, like I was although they were super strict, my mother was super into like the Beach Boys. My dad, well, that's pretty much his stick, is like funk and doo-wop and Donny Hathaway. And then I don't know why, but I've always gravitated towards jazz all my life, like all my life. And so between that and then going to school, I studied classically in high school and a bit in college. Out of all those things, I've always loved Shania Twain. Like, I'm a Shania Twain fan, and I'm a Dixie Chicks fan. Recently, we literally do Led Zeppelin tunes now. So like, I think, especially now for me, it's like I want to do all the styles, hence these 3 EPs, because I want to show people, like, actually, yeah, I come from the church, but also does rock.
Does meshing it together come natural, easy, or is it difficult
So it was harder at first, because I think I was initially always too gospel. But like even in college and things, like I was always too jazzy for the gospel, or too gospel for the jazz, or too R&B for the, whatever. So now, especially being able to write music, I've been writing music on piano now, and as far as like the ideas, especially the lyrics and stuff stemming from faith, I challenge them often. So the newest song is, can you promise me that he'll stay if I make him wait? Talking about, making him wait to do the thing. Can you promise me that? If you can promise me that he'll stay, I'll make him wait. But you can't. People wait for 30 years on that one person, and they finally do it. It's not that great, and then they leave them.
Okay,
you know what I'm
all
saying?
right.
So it's like, I am not writing these songs, and like, I cannot, again, to that nephew and that niece or that person, I can't have people thinking that if you talk about yourself having sex, then you're a sinner. It's natural.
It's natural.
It's natural.
You better preach.
It's just natural. So that's where I'm at with it, and I love combining the styles. It's my favorite
And
thing.
speaking of combining, if anybody is stuck on how to bring worlds together and find the symbiosis, find the point of connection, the natural, organic point of connection, just watch J. Hoard. Watch his moves, watch his performance, listen to his music, and I think that it's a teachable moment for humanity. We're going to talk another time about how you are barefoot in Brooklyn.
We're going to do it.
With them beautiful toes, but y'all don't get to be privy to that conversation. We'll just have our own side. There's so many things to talk about with all the artists that we have, and you are no different, but you are beautifully unique, and the message that comes through is do not wait on somebody else to be you and do you. Give it up for J. Hoard Music. And for the band. So I think this brings us to our close. We're going to do one more song after this, and then we're going to give you some hugs and some love and talk to you a little bit more. But for now, can I get a witness, a hallelujah, and an amen? Can I get an amen? For the holy musical experience that we just had with none other than J. Hoard and the very talented crew. Thank you all, truly, so very much for the good vibes and the goosebumps. My goodness. If you feel grateful and want more highly spirited B-side blessings, that is, you can check out this and past episodes on our YouTube channel, peep our podcast, or simply come on by the studio and get a dose of all this musical Holy Ghost up close. I am your host, Queen GodIs, reminding you to vote well, use your voice for good, and keep the vibe high no matter who, what, or why. We love you, Brooklyn, and you. Till next time.
to the point of never. Everybody always acting up, keeping tabs like they keep taxing us. Our stock is failing cause they're distracting us. Spend the night like you just found cash and kush. Ashes, ashes, dust to dust. Our love, outlast us. Close the door behind you. Spark up, let the flame guide you. I'll wait for you to take me under. No rush to the point of never. To the point of never. Listen, my heart keeps slipping, rolling downhill, I keep tripping, cause you're forgetting all of the scenes and memories we have through the years. But when you cross my mind, I always find you near. Everybody always acting up, keeping tabs like they keep taxing us. Our stock is falling cause they're distracting us. Spend the night like you just found cash and kush. Ashes, ashes, dust to dust. Our love, outlast us. Close the door behind you. Let the flame guide you. I'll wait for you to take me under. No rush to the point of never. Oh, to the point of never. To the point of never.